there, friends and neighbors. How you doing this morning? I hope everybody's okay. And you haven't broken out the parka yet, right? You haven't got, ooh, cold front's going to be here. I got to have my sweater on. It's coming. This is one of the slowest advancing cold fronts that I think I've ever witnessed. I kind of sat there all morning going, Dana, are you sure this won't be here by this afternoon? Because look, they're already feeling the effects just outside of Dallas. He was like, not going to be here until Wednesday into Thursday. And Thursday is when we're going to feel the temps. But don't let that put you off. It is a fantastic day rolling across southeast Texas, southwest Louisiana. It really is. It's going to be a beautiful day. A lot of things going on today. And perfect day for you to go, if you haven't already, and vote, right? I've got to do it myself. I think I've said this before. Traditionally, I have always been an election day kind of guy. I like to vote on election day. I don't know. It just makes me feel like it's part of the process. I know you don't like to stand in lines. You don't want to have to go through that. I never had a problem standing in lines. I don't know. It was just kind of, I don't know. Like I said, I just felt like it made it real. It made it like I was involved in the day that I had. But again, if you're going to have to stand in line for an hour, you may be glad you went and voted early. So again, I'm still weighing. I haven't decided. I told myself I was going to vote early, but I'll be honest with you, I kind of want to vote on election day, unless there's some reason that I can't or I shouldn't. So I may wait till election day, just so again I have that feeling like today's the day that we get to exercise our right to vote. Big day, that first time. Do you remember the first time you ever voted? I do. I remember it very well. First time I ever had to vote was a presidential election, a general election, when I turned 18. And my dad had already shown me how to vote and what to vote and where to go. And we voted at the county courthouse. And it was a pretty big deal. I mean, it had all these impressive voting machines lining the halls. And you would walk up and then you had to go check in. And once you were in, you had to walk down the hall. They would tell you, an election volunteer would walk you to your voting. And it truly was a machine where the curtain opened, you walked in, and it was a voting booth. You pulled this handle like this and the curtain slid behind you and you were in total privacy. And then it had all these levers. It was a different time. It really was. It was a different time. It was a mechanical voting booth. So each vote click, was registered with that machine. And so excited to, first one and then this one. Even if there was no way I was going to vote straight ticket. Are you kidding? And miss out on an opportunity to turn one of those levers, push a lever? No way. Again, that was many years ago. This year you can't either. This year you can't vote straight ticket in the state of Texas. So you're going to have to go through the process if you want to choose. But it looks like it's going to be great weather today again to get out and do that. By the way, I am Dan Gresham. This is my house, hence we call this Dan's At Home Update. It is not a newscast. I say that every day because I want to make it clear I'm not reading news stories for you. We're making observations. We're looking at stories. We're talking about things that are happening in our world. But in no way, form or fashion, is this really what we would consider to be a traditional newscast. No scripts, no nothing. It's just me off the top of my head talking to you, which is what I enjoy doing. I hope that you enjoy it that way as well. You can let me know by giving me a like. Or if you don't like it, you can also let me know by giving me an angry face or an unhappy face or a crying face, whatever it happens to be, the emoji you want to put up there. But a like is always appreciated here on Dan's At Home Updates. All right, so let's see who's checked in this morning as we get things started. Chason, good morning, says cool music. Well, thank you, Chason. Appreciate your noticing. Nina Carver, thank you. Donna Young is with us this morning. Kelly Clark says, where's Kelly this morning? Right there. Howdy. Why, howdy, Kelly. I don't get to say that very often. Howdy. I kind of like it, though. It kind of makes me feel like I'm a real Texan, which I am. I'm a native born. But I just don't say howdy very often. Stephen Chaplin, surf music. Well, yeah, okay. Could be surf music. I agree. Sherry, good morning to you this morning. Joyce Potter is up with us from Beaumont. Glenn says, good morning, Dan. Watching you from Manny, Louisiana this morning. Well, Glenda, appreciate that. I'm sure it's nice over there in Manny this morning. I hope everything's getting back into shape. Almost everybody, all my friends in Louisiana have had a struggle, this hurricane season. First, Laura, and then, of course, Delta, and now we're into Zeta. And apparently Zeta should not be a problem for you in Manny or in Lake Charles or now if you get on further over, we'll look at that in a second. New Orleans, that might be but I think it's going to be mainly a rain event. Barbara Ann, good morning to you. Watching I spent a whole lot of my time in my youth in Nacogdoches. In fact, a lot of my family lived in Nacogdoches County, also lived in Rusk County. And so when we wanted to go to town, you had to go and get something that you couldn't get in the little town. Nacogdoches was where you went because that was the big town. That's where you went for groceries the majority of the time. But yeah, Nacogdoches know it well. Rachel, good morning to you. Calvin's also good morning. Calvin Sherman, glad you're starting your day with us. Mira says, it's another beautiful, awesome day. It is. At some point in life, you have to come to realize that every day that you wake up is a beautiful, awesome day, right? The gift that you got. Wimberly, good morning to you, watching in Buna. Yeah, bring on the cool weather. Well, if you like cool, you're about to get it. Patsy Yeager says, in Fort Worth, ice and rain. Patsy, there are a lot of folks that are going to be excited just hearing that, I think. I know it's a pain to deal with. Annie, over in Galveston, good morning to you. Yvonne says, Election Day may be hurricane aftermath day, vote early. I'm not too concerned about that. I don't, even if this were, it just doesn't look like the kind of storm, Yvonne, that we're going to have to, I don't know. It looks like a tropical storm, maybe minimal category. I mean, we went through a pretty good one last time. But again, it is, you're right, probably would be better. But again, I'm still trying to work it out, but I'm really thinking that it's going to be Election Day. The more I sit here and talk about it, the more I think, yeah, Election Day. Wait for Election Day. Give those election volunteers something else to do. All right, so again, a run through of just some of the folks, and that's not all the folks. If you're here and you sign in, if you comment, if you say good morning, if you tell me you have I read every single one of the comments, I promise. Whether they're on the air or after we get finished. I see you. I do. And I appreciate your time, as I try to say every single day. All right, so let's go to KFDM.com, get a look at what's going on this morning in your headlines. Among our stories, you see Justice of the Peace sets a $1 million bond for a Groves murder suspect. You can go and find out more about that if you want. We mentioned the fact that we are now in the final week of early voting. We have 7 days. You realize that, right? Today is Tuesday. Election Day is November 3rd, a Tuesday. Early voting runs through Saturday. And then they'll have Sunday and Monday before they gear up for the general election. If you're like, well, I don't know where I can early vote. Where do I do that? If you go to KFDM.com, we have all the times and places. You can go in and see them all. That's Jefferson County. So you can go in and see it there. You can also, same thing in Orange County. You can go and see all the election sites and times. Same thing in Hardin County. So you shouldn't have a question about where. And when it comes to early voting, you don't have to worry about precinct. You don't have to worry about, if you're in northern Hardin County and you live in southern Hardin County and there's a place to vote in northern Hardin County, early voting, go vote. You don't have to be near your house. You can be any place. You could be out running errands. Oh, I think I'll vote. Well, there's a polling place there. As long as you got a photo ID, walk in, and if you're registered, you can vote. It's just that easy. Let's see, what else did we have? Oh, interesting story out of, probably would help if I let you see it as well, concerning the police and DA arresting 21 men as part of an anti-human trafficking expert and essentially a sting operation. You can go and see what the DA is saying about, he doesn't care who you are, he's not cutting any slack. Right, so he's saying that they're gonna. They feel like consumption is part of the problem, and if that's one way that they can attack the issue is by arresting those who are paying for or actually funding that trafficking. So again, you can go in and read that if you want. Also, a lot of forecasting going on about this election. Do you remember, is there any election, we were talking about the first time you ever voted, is there any election in your lifetime, since you've been voting, that you can remember that has been as contentious as this one? Do you think 2016 was? Or do you think this one has been, and when I say contentious, you feel it. There's that separation, there's that divide that is within our country. And I'm just curious, have you ever felt that before? Somebody might go, well, in 68, I remember in 68 when we had the riots, that were going on during the convention. That was a very divided country. And I think you were probably right. But this one, I'm talking all the things, the ramifications. In 68, you didn't have social media. You didn't have ways for people to have instantaneous. Now, we had television, you had radio, you had newspapers. So it was certainly quicker than it was, when your only means of information was newspapers. But it still wasn't what it is today. And all the influences. Let me, just real quickly, this is kind of an aside, but I do want to say this real quickly. Social media, be careful where you go, what you look at, what you believe. And I say that because I saw a friend of mine posting some stuff yesterday, and he's very vocal about which party he supports, and I get that, and it's certainly his right to be there. But when you start posting things that you found on social media that you haven't taken the time to find out, is that real? Or is that generated propaganda from a foreign country? And that's very possible. And this person was all up in arms about, if you go to this website, it takes you to this other, presidential website. So that just proves that they're part of this movement. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. What it proves is somebody wanted to have every click on their website forwarded to another website. And anybody can do that. A guy in Russia can do that. A person in China can do that. In China, Texas, or in China, the country, can set up a website and divert everything to another. There's nothing illegal about forwarding all the requests for your website, clicks to your website, to some other website. It doesn't prove anything. In fact, it might go just the opposite. Why would one of these elections want their website associated with something that makes them look bad? So sometimes you just have to use logic. Sometimes you need to go beyond that. And sometimes you need to verify. Go look, go check. There are lots of good places out there and I know you can doubt those too. You can say, oh, Snopes, that's SNOPES. Oh, no, they're not. Or factcheck.org. Oh, no, they're associated. But if you're going to be that cynical and you're going to doubt everything, it doesn't matter. But if your integrity is intact and you're about the party or the platform or the candidate, then at least be sure that what you're sharing is based in some truth, right? In fact. And it's not something somebody updated because they thought that would be great. And again, when you go and read all of the stuff that we're seeing now about these, for lack of a better word, these, what's a good, boiler rooms? Essentially, I'm trying to think of things that you can think of, but these places where they have, 100 people working on 1,000 computers, all posting things that's nothing more than propaganda for one or the other, or maybe they have a vested interest in something they want to see. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen everywhere. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying it does happen, and it does happen everywhere. So do not read all social media and say, well, if it says it, it's got to be the gospel. It's got to be the truth. There's no way it can't be true. Yeah, there's a lot of, and you know what? Here's the problem. And somebody else points this out in the comments. The problem becomes how to differentiate between what is legitimate and what is not. What is legitimate and what is manufactured. It's almost impossible. So wouldn't you want to err on the side of caution if you didn't know for certain that this was legitimate? Obviously, there are a lot of people that don't. A lot of people don't care. A lot of people I think a lot of people have a lot of time on their hands. And they just want to throw things out there. Listen, Carlene said, just like polls. Let me tell you, Carlene, polls can be good or bad. Polls can work for you. Polls can work against you. If you're the underdog, there's nothing better sometimes than to have polls come out that show you behind. Because then what happens? You get the sympathy vote. You get people going, oh, really? Or, well, I'm going to go vote now. They can also work against you, of course. You can be ahead and people go, well, I don't like that person. I'm going to go vote again. Whatever the party is, whatever the person, whatever the affiliation. Polls, I don't have nearly as much problem with because that's kind of like the grain of salt. But when you're taking something and you're spreading it all over the internet, like it's factual, that it's true, that it's real, and you really don't. To me, that again comes back to personal integrity. And how can somebody hold you up, and say, are you really, always ask, what's the motivation, what would make somebody want to do this? All right. So again, sorry I went off on the tangent there, but I just feel like it's very important that we understand that everything that we see on social media, everything that you read, every post that somebody makes doesn't make it real. It just makes it a post on the internet. All right. So let's go back. A couple of stories I wanted to hit you with before I run out of time this morning. And let's see. Let's talk about real quick. We were talking about contentious elections. Does this make you nervous, or does this make you feel like, wow, what's going on? Governor Abbott to put troops in Texas cities in case of post-election unrest. We were talking about, things that you wonder, have they, do you ever remember the National Guard being dispatched over concerns about post-election unrest? Again, maybe back in '68, but I don't recall that. Of course, I barely recall what happened yesterday. All right, let's also move on this morning to COVID numbers. I just want to show you these again so that you understand. There's a resource out there. I feel comfortable passing along to you what you do with the numbers, whether you believe the numbers, whether you take that's your choice, your decision to make. But I feel obligated to show them to you. This is from Health and Human Services from the state of Texas. It is a dashboard, which means it's a bunch of numbers that you can go and you can check out and see for yourself. For example, it shows the number of tests that have been administered, molecular tests in the state of Texas. It shows fatalities that are COVID related according to these estimates. But then you can also, and to me seems to be the real cornerstone of watching this, is hospitalizations. And you can go in and you can see the testing, but you can also go in and see what hospital rates look like right now in the state of Texas. This is the peak. You're talking about July 22nd at 10,000. You see the trend going down, 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 down. Then all of a sudden, we've started that climb back up again. And you can see that yesterday, we're at 5,278. So still half of what we were in July here in the state of Texas. Also, one more story. I'm going backwards. I'm kind of skipping back and forth between stories, but I thought this was another interesting. Go read this. USA Today, Election Day. In 7 days, here's when we might know and how we might know if either candidate wins the election and when we would know. And that's going to be interesting, as to when, are you going to see networks calling races, or is it going to be too close to call? How are mail-in ballots going to figure into all of this? Again, that's USA Today. I'm going to leave it to you. You go do the heavy lifting. I took you to a place where you can read and find out more. Okay. Also this morning, if I can figure out where I'm at. Oh, there we go. Also this morning, I want to leave you with one more story, one more quick note before I let you go. And I just thought this was I'm a barbecue fan. I'm assuming that many of you are. You live in the state of Texas. Texas Monthly out with the list, the top 50 barbecue joints in Texas. And this is a staff accumulation of different places. And they start with Abilene, and they go all the way through. And many of them are barbecue places that you know about. At one time in my life, I had a list going. A friend of mine, we rode motorcycles together, and our goal was always to eat at the best barbecue places we could find while we were riding. And we preferred them to be local barbecue joints, right? So anyway, there you go. You can see it. Go and check and see if there are any in Southeast Texas, and then let me know. I'm going to look. I'm a big barbecue fan. All right. So that is pretty much it for me today. I appreciate your time. As always, want to remind you too, there are lots of ways you can keep up with us here on the Facebook page, of course, also on Twitter, Morning TV Dan, and on YouTube. You can subscribe. Dan's at Home on YouTube. We post all of these right there. Oh, and if you have a barbecue joint that you think is the best in the state of Texas, send it to me. You know, I've been to the Lockhart's. I've been to the different places. I've been to Black's in Austin. I've been to some really good barbecue places. But I'm always looking for good brisket, good sausage, good links, you bet. So send them along. I'll appreciate it. Even if I can't go to them, I'll live vicariously through you. I'll build me a list. All right. Also, want to, again, thank you for your time. Remind you, reach out to somebody and make sure everybody's okay. If you want to get updated on what's happening in the weather, don't forget you can always go noon today. Dana will be back along with Tan Radford on KFDM. And then we'll be back bright and early tomorrow, of course, on KFDM with the morning show beginning at 4:30 a.m. So if you're an early riser, I'll be there to meet you. Until then, go out and make it a safe and terrific day, and we'll talk again soon.